Hey folks, Matt Sharp here with another Pacific Angler Friday Fishing Report. We're filming for September 11th. So as always, if it's nowhere near September 11th, click up here. This is a link to all the Friday Fishing Reports. We do it every week, so I should have something up to date for you. September 11th is an interesting date because September 10th was always the day that I would look hard at the Chilliwack. I lived on the Chilliwack for 3 years when I was going to university, and it always seemed that the Jack Chinook and the Coho seemed to roll in about this time. And from the reports that I'm hearing this week, it looks like that's a thing, but there are some water level concerns. We're gonna look at that when we get into the report. Now, I'm also gonna touch base on the saltwater because guys have been getting out there, having fun, finally being open. Now, I have to say that there has not been excellent fishing. There's been moments of brilliant fishing, but it's sort of been intermittent. We've seen some whales roll through. We've seen some of the transients roll through and kill a bunch of seals. There were a few guys cheering on that front, but we're gonna talk about that, look at the tides, look at what you guys can expect for maybe the next 2 weeks leading into the saltwater season, because there's still good opportunities, there's still good fishing to be had out there. Now, we're also going to talk a little bit about the freshwater fisheries that you can consider. We've got some lake fishing options for you guys, as well as the river fishing is still going to be good because it looks like summer 2.0 is holding on. The weather looks beautiful, well above seasonal averages, at least until Friday, Saturday, and we hope that's going to push through. There's also a little bit of rain sort of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so you river fishermen will probably want to take note of that. I've also got a video for you guys, but it's not from us. It's just one that I picked up randomly on YouTube that I like. It's a guy I follow. I have no association with him. Captain Quinn came out with a cool one about the Skeena. Now, last week we released some fun footage that Jason had from helicopter fishing on the Skeena a few years ago, but Captain Quinn's got a cool one that made me think, made me look at it. He talks to a bunch of the user groups because obviously they're having challenges there. It's a challenge that seems to be facing a number of fisheries in British Columbia right now, where a bunch of the user groups are sort of fighting each other, can't come to any agreement, and the government just sits back and eats popcorn and has no real reason to do anything for the fish that we love. I'm going to talk about that at the back end of the report. As always, guys, you want to see more reports like this, consider hitting the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's get into her. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Big shout out to Chappie for providing the beer tonight. He's one of our favorite customers, pretty good friend too. He's been supporting us a long time, a darn good fisherman, but don't tell him I said that. Thanks for the beer, Chappie, if you are watching this. Let's jump into it right off the hop and look at the weather, because summer 2.0 is still rolling through. It's kind of cool. It may be not kicking in a number of our fisheries that usually kick in with that sort of spread that we were talking about, cold nights, warm days, because we're seeing, well, warm nights, warm days. So when we pull up the weather here locally in Vancouver, full disclosure, I'm filming Wednesday night, so I'm going to see Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday here. Thursday is going to be 28, Friday is going to be 23, cooling a little bit into Saturday, Sunday, more sort of seasonal norms, but sun right through. Should be a beautiful weekend to get out fishing for you guys. But you river fishermen are going to smile when you see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because we are going to see a little bit of rain, actually maybe a little bit more than a little bit of rain. 10 millimeters, not a lot, but a lot more than we've seen in the last little bit, and that's what our rivers really need right now. The first major salmon fishery is obviously the Chilliwack Vedder, and she is very, very low. I'm going to talk about that in a moment here when we get into the river section, but let's throw it out to Chilliwack specifically there and look at the weather for them. And you can see Monday for them is 10, and then 5 to 10 millimeters Tuesday. Again, keep your eyes on that if you are a salmon fisherman. Now let's throw out to Kamloops, because we usually would be talking lake fishing right now. Buddy sent in this one. You see the paddle tail on this guy. He says that the water temperatures dropped with that sort of colder nights we were seeing 2 weeks ago. He says they've sort of stabilized. They haven't warmed back up. So he says fishing's pretty decent, but it's not crazy good like we would expect if we had much bigger spread between cold nights and warm days. So I know I've heard a bunch of reports from the guys where they're like, It's a little grindy. Went lake fishing, was hoping for a little bit cooler water temperatures. So it's still sort of on summer water temperatures or low summer water temperatures. And that's making things a challenge. And when we look out at Kamloops, you can see it. Yeah, they're still getting 30s right now as we're filming this report. 29s on the weekend, getting cooler, 25, 22, getting into that sort of 11, 12 degree realm for the nights, which we want to see. I'd like to see it even a little bit lower than that, you know, like an 8 or a 7, because then when we look up at the higher elevation areas, it's going to be much colder. So if you're planning a lake trip, definitely go. It's going to be beautiful. You're going to be still in short sleeves, but if you're looking for that really good fall lake fishing conditions, it's probably drag your feet another 5 to 10 days. See how this plays out as it comes through. Now let's roll back to the saltwater anglers. When we're looking at the tides this week, overall the saltwater fishing has been, I'll say, intermittent. We've had some really excellent reports, but I got a bunch of guys that have been grinding hard and not finding fish consistently. They might have a flurry on a tide and get their limit, get 6, 8, 10 fish, have a really good bite, but then roll into a day and a half straight of getting one here, one there. It's frustrating. It looks like we have missed a little bit of the bulk of the fishery. That said, one of the excuses, should you say, when it comes to fishing, but a very, very viable one this time of year, is when orcas come through the area. It's interesting to look at how they think that orcas and sports fishermen interact, and to watch it when you're out there as a sports fisherman. I won't get into the politics on that side of things, but when the orcas come through, they do disperse the Chinook dramatically. And the studies that I've read has that to do with how they're hunting, the echolocation that they're using. That just literally scares every Chinook out of a given area. And we had southern resident killer whales come through, as well as transients. Now, I saw some fun footage. I'm not going to post it here because it's one of those interesting political ones, but some transients came through and did a number on our local seal population, which we might have been cheering for. That said, it did make the fishing really challenging, and in those times, in those tides, we're hopeful that that should increase. We should see waves continue. It should continue for at least another 10, 20 days, depending on where we look at it and what's coming through. But the reports, good reports, have been from all the locations. I mean, I've had excellent reports from Bellboy, I have excellent reports from T10, and excellent reports from Sandheads. I will say that the Sandhead reports have been a little bit more numerous, but it's quite funny. I'll get a call from guys being like, Sandheads is dead, no one's catching anything. And then I'll talk to some guy, I'm like, how was it, man? I heard it was really tough. And they'll be like, oh man, we were at Bellboy and we limited it out in an hour and a half. It was great. We had 4 guys on the boat, we had 8 fish. It was a game over. So roll out there depending on where you're coming from. Try to look at a few different areas, and then we'll cross our fingers that the cycle of the whales coming through will line up well on the day you plan out. So get out there, go hit it. Tides look great. We've got that incoming tide in the morning, meaning that like we're looking at sort of 6 a.m. This is Thursday. I'll roll it out to Friday for you guys when you guys are watching this. So we've got a 7 a.m. low slack tide. That's gonna push water into the river the entire day. So rolling from 7 all the way up to the high of 310. And then it's a super mellow little tide till 8 o'clock. So again, really good for an afternoon fish, midday into that high slack. Yes, every area has its little tweaks, but this looks excellent. Pretty mellow tides in the back end as well, rolling right into Monday. Obviously, that's also going to play well for you beach fishermen, where you're getting that low slack early in the morning, so it wouldn't be a bad week to look at heading out to the mouth of the Capilano or any other local beaches when we're looking at coho getting pushed in. So there should be some good reports this week, and like as expected with the bad tides last week, we didn't get a lot of beach reports this week. So check that out, definitely worth looking at. Quick check on the weather. We're looking at wind light, wind light, wind light. That is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now, these change all the time, but that looks like a beautiful report. I don't think I've ever looked at a wind report for this Georgia Strait where I've seen wind light, wind light, wind light for 3 days in a row leading into a weekend. But let's not jinx it. Look at your weather before you go out. That would be perfect. So in the written version of the report, Jordan's gonna go over some lake fishing stuff. Taylor's got some better stuff. I wanted to talk about that for a sec because we have heard the first fish showing up in the Vedder Chilliwack. Now they're concentrated down low, there's quite a bit of pressure, and the water levels are quite low. Let's just pull up the water levels right now and see if we can get a baseline, because that's going to be useful for us going forward. So we're going to Google search BC river levels. First one that pops up, Water Office, fire it up here, wait for it to load. She's running slow right now. Okay, so here she is, and she is running low. She's at 17.1 M3S. I should call my biology buddies and have them define that for me because I don't exactly know what that means, but that's low on the scale. So expect low water, expect that fish have a lot of trouble coming up into the river at these levels. We do need to see a rain to see that really bump up. So take that into consideration when you're heading out. It's not prime time yet. We need to see these bump up a little bit, but it is worth it. We heard reports this week of Jack Chinook as well as coho coming through. So it's worth a scout trip, but it's still maybe not quite there yet, but you've got hope if you head out. Roe is king this time of year. Colorados and spinners are worth it because those fresh fish haven't seen much, but if they are potted up down low with a lot of anglers sort of pushing on them, then bait's usually king. Check out the written version of the report. Taylor's gonna have more up-to-date info, and he has been going out, so he might have gone out by the time I'm filming this to when he's actually writing it. Might have some more stuff for you guys if you're interested. Links, as always, down in the description. Okay, so other fisheries to look at. Skagit should be excellent for you guys this weekend. Harrison's still a little bit early. I'm gonna have an overview of the stave next week for you guys because it's one to consider, but it is also too early, and the Squamish is still too early if you guys are thinking about heading that way, but we're hopeful it's soon. We're getting ready. Now, lastly, on the video front, it's not one from us. It's not one even remotely associated with Pacific Angler. This is Captain Quinn. I don't know him. I don't work with him. I just like some of the stuff he does. Don't always agree with what he says, but it makes me giggle most of the time. And he did a really cool one on the Skeena, somewhere close to my heart. Somewhere we've all loved to fish. Last week we did a video on some helicopter fishing around the Skeena, just a fun short of some fun footage. I'm gonna link that up here if you guys wanna take a look at that, because it's definitely worth sitting back, having a beer. It's 3.5 minutes long, just some good fish porn. But he did a piece where he was looking at a bunch of user groups, a bunch of the history of the Skeena, and I think it's a pretty valuable piece. You may not agree with all of the opinions shared on this video, but he points one really critical opinion out, and that is that it seems as though every fishery that's having problems has a bunch of user groups that tend to fight each other. And instead of coming together and actually doing something to fix the problem, that infighting happens and the government gets to sit back, eat popcorn, not really care about the problem, and just let everyone duke it out, and nothing ever really gets done to save the fish. So I'm gonna leave the politics up to the politicians, but that said, this one's worth looking out. It's good to smile over some beautiful footage. Definitely wanted to share it with you guys this week. If you wanna see Captain Quinn's video, I'm gonna throw it up here. I'm gonna throw our Skeena video up here because nowhere as good as Captain Quinn, but it's kind of fun. And then I'm gonna throw up another one. I'll move back here. This is our coho, what's in our coho fly box, because it's definitely worth looking at because we are getting ready, something to load up on, something to get prepared for the Vedder Harrison Chilliwack. As always, guys, you want to see more videos like this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We'll catch you next week.